Providence Municipal Court. A billionaire real estate mogul in a custom Chanel suit worth more than most people's cars stands before Judge Frank Caprio for a simple parking violation. The fine? $75. What happens next? Priceless. In less than 30 minutes, she will utter 3 words that transform her from untouchable elite to inmate number 47821. She makes a decision that will haunt her for the rest of her life. When did we forget that wealth doesn't buy immunity from decency? Stay until the end to see the exact moment her empire of arrogance crumbles. Before we reveal what happens next, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because stories like this remind us why character still matters. And comment below, where in the world are you watching from? Let's see how far respect travels. Her name, Claudia Westhaven. Net worth, $3.2 billion. She owns 12 luxury hotels across 3 continents: Manhattan, Dubai, Singapore. Her properties have housed presidents, celebrities, and royalty. She walks into the courtroom like she owns the building. Designer sunglasses indoors, Cartier, with diamond accents along the frames. Phone still in hand, screen illuminated with what appears to be stock market updates. No eye contact with court staff. Not the clerk, not the bailiff. Not the people sitting in the gallery waiting for their own cases to be called. Her lawyer trails behind her, expensive, polished, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than the average monthly rent in Providence. He's already preparing appeals before she's even been called, flipping through papers with the confidence of someone who's gotten wealthy clients out of far worse situations than a parking ticket. Then there's Judge Frank Caprio, 87 years old. A legend of compassion, patience, and fairness. He's dismissed tickets for struggling nurses who worked double shifts and forgot to feed a meter. He's hugged veterans who broke down, explaining how PTSD made them forget a court date. He's helped single mothers scraping by on minimum wage, waiving fines so they could buy groceries for their children instead. But he's also a man who believes that every person, rich or poor, deserves equal treatment and expects the same respect in return. The clerk calls the case, number 73, City of Providence versus Claudia Westhaven, illegal parking in a designated handicap zone. Claudia approaches the bench. She doesn't say good morning. She doesn't acknowledge the courtroom. Her heels click against the marble floor Louboutins, red soles flashing with each step. Judge Caprio smiles warmly, the way he does with everyone who stands before him. Good morning, ma'am. How are you today? She sighs. Audibly, dramatically. Can we just get this over with? The shift is instant. You can feel it ripple through the room like a cold wind. Even the bailiff straightens his posture, his hand instinctively moving closer to his belt. A mother with a baby in the back row stops bouncing her child and looks up. The college student in the 3rd row who's been scrolling through his phone suddenly hits record. Judge Caprio's smile doesn't falter. But something flickers in his eyes. Experience. Recognition. He's seen this before. Not often, but enough times to know what's coming. He opens the folder in front of him and reviews the ticket. It says here, you parked in a clearly marked handicap zone. No placard, no medical exemption. This was on Benefit Street, correct? Claudia shrugs, her shoulder rising just enough to show dismissiveness without full commitment. It was 5 minutes. I was meeting with the mayor. I'm sure you understand important business. The prosecutor, a young woman in her early 30s, named Sarah Chen, glances up from her own notes. She's handled hundreds of these cases. Usually, they're straightforward. Person parked illegally. Person apologizes. Fine is paid or reduced based on circumstances. Everyone goes home. This already feels different. Judge Caprio leans forward slightly, his voice still gentle but carrying more weight now. I do understand important business, ma'am. I also understand that handicap spots exist for people who genuinely need them, people with mobility issues, people who depend on that access. Were you aware of the signage? Claudia's tone sharpens like a blade being drawn. I was aware. I made a judgment call. A judgment call. Judge Caprio repeats slowly, as if tasting the words. Can you help me understand what factors went into that judgment? Like I said, I had a meeting with the mayor about a development project that will bring 300 jobs to this city. I didn't have time to circle the block looking for parking like some. She pauses, searching for the word. Ordinary citizen. The gallery stirs. Someone coughs. Another person shifts in their seat with an audible creak. Prosecutor Chen stands, her voice measured and professional. Your Honor, if I may, there were 3 available spots within 50 feet of where Miss Westhaven parked. Security footage from the adjacent building confirms she saw the handicap sign. She looked directly at it and chose to park there anyway. The violation lasted 23 minutes, not 5. Claudia laughs, actually laughs. It's a sound without humor, sharp and cutting. This is absurd. It's a revenue trap. You find people to fund this place. This whole system is designed to extract money from whom? Judge Caprio interrupts, his voice still calm but now carrying an edge that makes everyone in the courtroom pay attention. From people who break the law? From people who choose convenience over consideration? His expression doesn't change, but his eyes do. There's a depth there now, a weariness mixed with resolve. This court doesn't operate on traps, ma'am. It operates on laws. Laws that apply equally to every single person who walks through that door. Whether they're meeting with the mayor or they're coming from a factory shift. Whether they own hotels or they clean them. The gallery is silent now. The mother with the baby has stopped moving entirely, frozen in attention. The college student's phone is still recording, but his hand has stopped shaking. He knows he's capturing something. Even first-time visitors can sense it. She's digging her own grave. Claudia crosses her arms, her Chanel jacket pulling tight across her shoulders. Frankly, Judge, I think you're wasting my time. Just tell me the fine so I can leave. I have actual important matters to attend to. Her lawyer, his name is Mitchell Hargrove, a partner at one of Providence's most prestigious firms, touches her elbow gently. Claudia, he whispers, leaning close. Please. She jerks away from him like he's delivered an electric shock. Don't touch me. Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly. He cleans them with a cloth from his desk, taking his time, letting the silence build. When he puts them back on, he looks at Claudia not with anger, but with something deeper, something sadder. Disappointment. Ma'am, this court has shown you nothing but respect since you walked in. I greeted you with courtesy. I've listened to your explanation. I've given you every opportunity to recognize why we're here. And all I've been asking is that you show the same basic respect in return. He pauses, letting his words settle over the courtroom like snow. Do you understand the purpose of this proceeding? Claudia's jaw clenches. Her knuckles turn white around her purse strap, a Hermes Birkin that could cover a year of someone's rent. Her breathing becomes audible, quick and shallow. The veteran in the back row, a man named Robert Martinez, who served in Vietnam and now volunteers at the VA hospital, leans forward in his seat. He's been coming to Judge Caprio's courtroom for years, sometimes just to watch, to remind himself that fairness still exists somewhere in the world. He knows what he's seeing. He's seen it in officers who thought their rank meant they could disregard their men. He's seen it in politicians who thought power meant immunity. He's seeing it now. Claudia leans forward, her hands pressing against the defendant's table hard enough that her diamond rings click against the wood. And in a voice loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear, loud enough that the clerk in the adjacent hallway will later say she heard it through the door, she speaks 3 words that will define this moment forever. I own you. The room gasps. Someone drops a pen, and it hits the floor with a clatter that seems impossibly loud. The bailiff's hand moves instinctively toward his radio. The prosecutor's mouth falls open. Mitchell Hargrove closes his eyes and mouths something that looks like a prayer. Judge Caprio's face becomes stone, carved granite, Mount Rushmore. But his voice is measured steel, the kind forged in furnaces and cooled in ice water. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Claudia doesn't hesitate. If anything, she doubles down, leaning further forward. You heard me. I own you. I own this courthouse. My family has donated more money to this city than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. My hotels employ 3,000 people in this state. So yes, Judge, I own you." Then she does it. She raises her middle finger. Directly at Judge Frank Caprio, the man who's forgiven hundreds of people for honest mistakes, who's cried with defendants struggling with addiction, who's waived fines for immigrants who barely speak English and were terrified of the system, who's embodied grace under pressure for 4 decades on the bench. She raises her middle finger at him, holding it there for 3 full seconds while her face twists into something ugly and triumphant. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Someone says, "Oh my God," loudly enough to be heard. The college student's phone nearly drops from his shaking hands. The mother with the baby actually stands up, as if physical distance from what's happening might protect her child from witnessing it. Robert Martinez, the veteran, puts his face in his hands. Mitchell Hargrove's face goes from tan to pale to green. "Your Honor, I apologize. My client is clearly—" Judge Caprio raises his hand, and the lawyer stops mid-sentence like he's been struck mute. The judge stands. Slowly. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. "Miss Westhaven." His voice fills every corner of the courtroom, not through volume, but through weight. Through authority earned over 40 years of treating every human being who stood before him with dignity, regardless of whether they deserved it. In my 40 years on this bench, I have seen poverty, real poverty, the kind where parents have to choose between paying a parking ticket and feeding their children. I have seen addiction. People so trapped by substances that they've lost everything, their families, their homes, their hope. I have seen people at their absolute lowest, standing where you're standing right now, with nothing left but their basic human dignity. He pauses, and the silence is absolute. And do you know what I've never seen? In 40 years, I've never seen someone so wealthy in dollars and so bankrupt in dignity. Claudia opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. This courtroom is not a transaction, Miss Westhaven. It is not a hotel lobby where you can purchase whatever outcome you desire. It is a place where human beings come to be heard, to be judged fairly, and to be treated with respect. Not because of what they own, not because of who they know, but because they are human beings standing before the law. Judge Caprio's hands are flat on his desk now, bearing his weight as he leans forward. You believe your money makes you untouchable. You believe that wealth translates to power, and power translates to immunity. But in this room, there is only one currency that matters: decency, respect, basic human consideration for others. And you, madam, are overdrawn. People in the gallery are nodding. Some have tears in their eyes. The teacher in the 4th row, a woman named Jennifer Walsh who makes $42,000 a year teaching special education, is gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles match Claudia's from moments ago. She's been before Judge Caprio twice, once for an expired inspection sticker because she couldn't afford the repairs, once for parking in a street cleaning zone because she was at the hospital with her mother who was having a heart attack. Both times, he dismissed the tickets. Both times, he asked about her mother. Both times, he treated her like she mattered. She's watching someone spit on that now, and it breaks her heart. Judge Caprio continues, his voice softening slightly, but losing none of its strength. I don't enjoy this, Miss Westhaven. I take no pleasure in what I'm about to do. But if I let you walk out of here without consequence, I send a message to every single person watching, to every person who's ever stood before this court with humility and respect, that wealth buys immunity. That power means you're above the rules that bind everyone else. He straightens, standing at his full height. And I will not do that. I will not be the judge who teaches that lesson. Claudia's lawyer tries again. Your Honor, if we could just— Mr. Hargrove, your client has made her position abundantly clear. She owns me. She owns this courthouse. She owns, apparently, the concept of justice itself. So I'm going to show her something that cannot be owned. Judge Caprio looks at Claudia directly, and for the first time since she entered the courtroom, she won't meet his eyes. Miss Westhaven, for contempt of court, I am sentencing you to 72 hours in county detention. Her face drains of color. Every bit of tan from her last vacation in the Maldives, every carefully applied layer of makeup, seems to vanish as the blood leaves her face. You can't. Her voice is barely a whisper. I can. And I am. Please. The word comes out broken, cracked. Judge, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... You didn't mean what, exactly? You didn't mean the words you said? You didn't mean the gesture you made? Or you didn't mean for there to be consequences? Mitchell Hargrove is scrambling now, papers forgotten. Your Honor, my client is clearly emotional. She's under significant stress with her business dealings. Perhaps if we could take a recess. Judge Caprio raises his hand again. Mr. Hargrove, your client was clear-headed enough to park illegally despite multiple available legal spots. She was clear-headed enough to justify it by citing her importance. She was clear-headed enough to laugh at this court's proceedings. She was clear-headed enough to tell me she owns me and punctuate that statement with an obscene gesture. He pauses. She can be clear-headed enough to accept the consequences of those choices. Claudia's voice cracks like ice breaking. Please, I have a board meeting tomorrow. I have investors flying in from Tokyo. You have a decision to make. Judge Caprio sits back down, his voice becoming almost gentle again, almost fatherly. However, I'm going to offer you something, Miss Westhaven. Something I don't have to offer. Something you certainly haven't earned through your behavior here today. He pulls out a piece of paper and writes something on it. If you write a 500-word essay on why respect for judicial institutions matters, truly matters, not just to satisfy me, but to understand it yourself and submit it to this court within 72 hours, I will reduce your sentence to time served plus 100 hours of community service. Claudia nods frantically, mascara now streaking down her cheeks in dark rivers. I will. I promise. I'll write it. You'll write it from detention, Miss Westhaven, where you'll have plenty of time to think about what brought you here. About the choices that led a billionaire to stand in handcuffs over a $75 parking ticket. Judge Caprio looks at the bailiff. Officer Morrison, please escort Miss Westhaven to holding. The bailiff, a man named Derek Morrison who's worked with Judge Caprio for 15 years, approaches with handcuffs. He's professional, gentle even, but firm. Ma'am, please place your hands behind your back. Claudia's whole body is shaking now. This can't be happening. This can't, Mitchell. Do something. Mitchell Hargrove looks helpless, diminished. I'll file an emergency appeal. I'll have you out by tonight. You'll file whatever you need to file, counselor, Judge Caprio says, but Miss Westhaven will remain in custody pending that process. Those are the rules, the same rules that apply to everyone else. The handcuffs click into place. The sound echoes through the courtroom like a gavel strike. Claudia is led toward the side door that leads to holding. No sunglasses now. Officer Morrison had her remove them. No phone confiscated and placed in a property bag. No arrogance, no superiority, no claims of ownership. Just a human being who forgot that respect isn't optional, learning that lesson the hardest way possible. As she reaches the door, she looks back one more time at the courtroom, at the gallery full of ordinary people watching her extraordinary fall, at the judge who refused to be owned. Then, she's gone. The courtroom remains silent for a long moment. It's the kind of silence that follows lightning when everyone is waiting for thunder. Then an older man in a military cap stands. His name tag reads Martinez. His hands shake slightly, not from fear, but from emotion. Your Honor, permission to speak? Judge Caprio nods, his expression softening immediately. Of course, Mr. Martinez. I served 30 years so people like her could build empires, so they could own hotels and make billions and live lives I could never imagine. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because I believe in what this country is supposed to stand for. His voice grows stronger. But I didn't serve so she could spit on the institutions that protect us all. I didn't serve so wealth could mean immunity. I didn't serve so someone could stand in a court of law and say they own the judge. Robert Martinez's eyes are wet now, but his voice doesn't break. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for reminding us that justice is blind to bank accounts, that respect isn't something you can buy, that we still have people willing to stand up and say, no, not here, not in my courtroom. He sits back down, and several people around him pat his shoulder. Then a young woman raises her hand. Jennifer Walsh, the special education teacher. Your Honor? Yes, ma'am. She stands, nervous but determined. I'm a public school teacher. I make $42,000 a year. I've been in front of you twice for honest mistakes. Once for an expired inspection because I couldn't afford the repairs. Once for parking in a street cleaning zone because I was at the hospital with my mother. She takes a breath. You showed me mercy both times. You asked about my mother. You asked if I needed help. You treated me like I mattered, even though I'm nobody. Even though I don't own anything except student loan debt and a 12-year-old Honda. Her voice firms up. What she did today, that wasn't a mistake. That was entitlement. That was someone so used to having everything that she forgot other people are real. And I'm so glad she learned what the rest of us already know. That there are still places where money doesn't talk, where character does. She sits down quickly, face flushed, surprised by her own boldness. Judge Caprio nods slowly, and there might be moisture in his own eyes now. Thank you both. Thank you for those words, and thank you for reminding me why I still sit here after 40 years. He looks around the courtroom at all the faces watching him. This is what makes America work. Not perfection, we're far from perfect, but accountability. The idea that we're all bound by the same rules, that we all owe each other basic decency and respect. Everyone is equal under law. Applause breaks out. Quiet at first, then building. Not the raucous applause of a concert or sporting event, but something deeper, more meaningful. The kind of applause that comes from shared values, from seeing something good and true defended when it would have been easier to let it slide. Judge Caprio allows it for a moment, then gently raises his hand for quiet. We have other cases to hear today, other people who've been waiting patiently. Let's continue. Where are you watching from? Comment your city below if you believe that respect for our institutions should never be optional, no matter how much money someone has. Later that afternoon, after the courtroom is cleared and the day's docket is complete, Judge Caprio sits in his chambers. The essay prompt he wrote for Claudia Westhaven sits on his desk. His clerk, Maria Rodriguez, brings him coffee. That was something today, Judge. He nods, looking tired. It was, and I take no joy in it, Maria. Truly, I don't. I know you don't, but you did the right thing. Did I? He looks up at her. I sent a human being to jail over a parking ticket. You sent a human being to jail for contempt, for disrespect so profound it couldn't be ignored. There's a difference. He sips the coffee. Let me be clear about something, Maria. I don't celebrate anyone going to jail. I don't celebrate punishment for its own sake. But I celebrate when the law works as intended. She sits down across from him. How so? Equality means nothing if we carve out exceptions for the powerful. If we say the rules apply to everyone except the wealthy, except the connected, except the ones who donate to campaigns or know the mayor, then what are we? What's the point of any of this? He gestures around his chambers, at the law books lining the walls, at the diplomas and commendations. Respect is the glue that holds civilization together, Maria. Without it, we have chaos. Without the mutual agreement that we'll treat each other with basic dignity, that will acknowledge institutions and laws and shared social contracts, what's left? She nods. Nothing. Just the strong preying on the weak. Exactly. And contempt for fairness, for decency, for one another, that is where societies collapse. It starts small. Little acts of disrespect. Little violations of the social contract because we think we're above it. And it grows until there's nothing left but power and force. He sets down his coffee cup. That's why I couldn't let it go. Not because she disrespected me personally. I've developed thick skin over 4 decades. But because letting it go would have told everyone in that courtroom that the social contract is negotiable, that respect is optional if you have enough money, and I won't teach that lesson. I won't be the judge who says that's acceptable. Maria stands. You want to know what I think? Always. I think you're exactly the judge we need. And I think Miss Westhaven might leave detention a better person than she entered it. He smiles, but it's sad. I hope so. I genuinely hope so. 3 days later, an essay arrives at the courthouse. It's handwritten on yellow legal paper in Claudia Westhaven's distinctive script. It's exactly 500 words. Judge Caprio reads it in his chambers, alone. It begins. I walked into Providence Municipal Court believing I was untouchable. I left in handcuffs, having learned the hardest lesson of my life. Not about law, but about humanity. The essay continues, describing the 3 days in detention. The women she met there, mostly poor, mostly struggling, mostly respectful and kind, despite having every reason to be bitter. The realization that the world she'd insulated herself within wasn't the real world. The understanding that money had become a wall between her and basic human empathy. It ends. Judge Caprio didn't send me to jail to punish me. He sent me to jail to remind me I'm human. To remind me that every person I encounter, every housekeeper in my hotels, every server in my restaurants, every person I pass on the street is just as human as I am, just as worthy of respect, just as deserving of dignity. I forgot that. I won't forget it again. Judge Caprio reads it twice. Then he picks up his phone and calls the detention center. This is Judge Caprio. Please inform Miss Westhaven that her sentence is reduced to time served, and that she should report to the Providence Community Center on Monday to begin her 100 hours of community service. He hangs up, sits back in his chair, closes his eyes. Maybe, just maybe, justice isn't just about punishment. Maybe it's about teaching, about giving people the opportunity to be better than their worst moment. Maybe that's what 40 years on the bench has taught him. Not that people are perfect, but that they can learn, they can grow, they can change. Even billionaires who forget they're human. The video of the confrontation goes viral within hours. Millions of views, thousands of comments. News outlets pick it up. Legal experts debate it on cable news. But in Providence, in the neighborhoods around the courthouse, something simpler happens. People talk about it over dinner. They discuss it in break rooms. They reference it when teaching their children about respect and consequences. They remember the day a billionaire learned she couldn't buy her way out of basic human decency. They remember Judge Frank Caprio standing up and saying, no. And they remember why institutions matter, why respect isn't optional, why the law works best when it works for everyone. She walked into Providence Municipal Court as a billionaire who thought she owned the world. She left in handcuffs, as a reminder that respect isn't bought,